It should say so. It should say a little
Yeah,
live.
it'll
Yeah.
go.
We're live now.
There we go.
So I said vapor. I hardly knew her. Are we live?
We are live.
Okay, we're live. We'll just cut
We're
that in post.
live.
We are live. No, we're actually live now. And did we get the joke off? Either way, shout out to Elijah. Welcome to Dancing Dragons Live. This is our weekly live stream where you can talk to real coaches like these folks right here about real topics that affect your real life. So do us a favor when you're just watching right now, open up another tab, open up dancingdragons.cc. That is dancingdragons.cc. Dancingdragons.cc. Check us out over there. You only have one life and you want to make the most of it. And we have a diverse array of coaches that can tailor to your needs. So make the most out of your life. And without any further ado, one more ado, guys, like, share, and subscribe. Find us on YouTube if you're on LinkedIn or Facebook. Find us there. You can go check out all of our past episodes. And some of the things we're going to be bringing up today were addressed in our past episodes in more detail. So definitely go take a look at that. Today's topic is 10 things, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, that every gentleman or gentlewoman should have or should know. And I was inspired to do this episode because unfortunately, the last 40, 50 years, we grew up in a generation without pops, without dad. So dad wasn't there to show us how to shave, to show us how to throw a right cross, to tell us how to approach a girl. Not that my dad would have helped any in that anyways, but to do all those things that a man or a woman needs to do. So I'm obviously going to be coming from the male perspective, but and welcome to all of our coaches for joining. Thank you guys for joining. But let's kick it off with Rona today. In your opinion, do you think, if you want to start from the gentleman side or maybe the female side, what are a few things maybe that every gentleman or gentlewoman should have? I think you're muted, Coach Rona.
Sorry, you guys just cut out for a second. So what I heard. All right, can you guys hear me? Am I smooth now? Because you guys were.
It's better.
You're always smooth,
okay.
And now we can hear you.
You asked what things. I'm always smooth. So the question is, what do I think men are missing?
So my question is, if you could
give about
when the question is, hold on, Rona. I think Rona's going to have to leave and come back. But the question was, Rona, if you could put it in like a 2 or 3 piece haiku, just the meaning of life. No, the question. Can you hear me? Give me a test 1, 2, Rona. She's a little delayed. 1, 2. All right, perfect. You're a little delayed, but my question is, so the name of this episode is 10 things every gentleman needs or gentleman. Yeah, Rona, you're going to need to come back. So we'll go back to you.
Someone else. I'll be back.
To leave and come out. All right, Vincent, You're the only other gentleman here with me. So I'm not to assume, but yeah. What do you think? What are a few things, maybe the top things you think that every gentleman needs, sir?
Well, I'm going to say this framing that I just celebrated my 34th wedding anniversary. So I'm hoping that there's been a good sense of a couple of things. Number one, laughter, partnership, respect, support. And I'm going to just throw out 12 things because for those of you who know the Boy Scouts of America, I'm an Eagle Scout, and I believe there are some fundamentals that sometimes are not really taught anymore, but there are 12 points. And if I think about a relationship and if I aspire to be a gentleman, these are the 12 points. And I think they are applicable to anybody. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And I really think that they're universal points that can easily help to provide the correct and the healthiest infrastructure for any relationship. I do think that there are some things that I grew up learning from my father and other men that were in my life that I thought were the right way to treat women and how to treat elders, especially, and children, So we could talk about what I think I still see or what I don't see anymore. Sometimes a bit of a pet peeve, but I think principles wise, it's very important to have at least those things in your heart and in your
Okay.
daily activities.
So let's start. First of all, Rona's backstage. If Alex, if you could let her back. But let's start with this. Let's start with you, Vincent, and then we can go to Maza and Heather. What's your biggest pet peeve nowadays? What's your biggest pet peeve?
I think one of the, if I may say, is simple things that I always thought would be well mannered. So not holding the door for someone, not saying thank you, not writing a thank you note, actually, not a text message, an actual handwritten note. Why is that important? Because it's actually proof that you wrote it. You wrote it with your hand and it's in ink and you can touch it and feel it and you can look at it. I would say, and I think that the other thing I would add is not listening critically. So I think today we live in such a polarized society. We have it's hard to escape from that. But just the ability to listen, even if you have a diverse opinion. I remember saying to friends or others, I respectfully disagree, blah, 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 blah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe if we could all practice, if we all collectively could practice things like that, it would be a little bit more, humane and not so tense and so difficult to get points across, to discuss, with a conversation. I'll stop there.
All right. How about you, Maza? Let's start with one pet peeve that you think gentlemen are lacking, and then maybe something that females need, or maybe a female pet peeve. Let's start with the pet peeves, and then we'll supply solutions.
Okay, I would begin with first of all what a gentleman should be or gentlewoman should be. So they must be respectful, honest. They communicate with a clear purpose and show self-discipline and responsibility. And they also needs to be punctual, dress appropriately or for different situations, and they should hold practical skills like managing their money. They know their basic etiquettes. All of these kind of things are really important these days. And these days what people are doing, they are like buying stuff without even thinking. So that's also impacting their finances as well. So I think these days we need to focus more on how we can be managing our finances, and not do shopping just because on social media everyone is like talking about something, so they need that. So we really need to focus on that, and we really need to cut down on those things, because having luxury things, that doesn't matter to anyone who care for
Yeah.
you. It matters if you are be respectful for others, and having manners and mannerism in general.
Yeah. Do you have any particular pet peeves with the young men or women of today's age?
I think running towards like social media too much, and you know, a fear of being judged by other, not having something which other people are showing on social media, like something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I hate their stupid ass broccoli haircuts. They look dumb. I wish they'd clean up the broccoli haircuts. And this is why and then this is a controversial take. There's actually some coaches that maybe even on this panel that wouldn't agree with me, but I tell men, especially to counteract inflation, you should be working 60 hours a week until you get ahead of the curve. Men are supposed to be protectors and providers, and you cannot provide even for yourself on 40 hours a week. And that's why I'm able to do some of the things that Maza mentioned. I was able to get that Ninja Turtles comforter for the bed. Now, granted, females won't come over, but it looks awesome with Raphael there. I feel really protected. All right, Coach
Correct.
Rona. Before we get to Heather, what is your pet peeve nowadays with men or women, as far as what this generation is lacking, and maybe some things that they could do to kind of counteract those?
The first thing is for men, if you're going to take a girl out, if you're going to have a conversation with her, number one, well, my worst thing, mansplaining. And see, ladies, yeah. You ladies, I'm sure you're educated. You're a doctor, Heather. Maza, I don't know what your background is. You're here. I'm assuming that you're fairly intelligent. we can put a sentence together. Do not come back at me and say, well, what I think you meant was, or, just speak to me like I'm 5 years old. Just because I clean up nice doesn't mean I'm an idiot, because I will crush you every time, and you want to underestimate me? Do so at your peril. So yeah, drives me nuts when men think that they have to dumb their speech down. And if we are going to an event, and maybe this is because I'm from New York and now I live in California, do not wear flip-flops. I mean, it has gotten so casual.
Yeah.
If we're going to the opera, do not wear flip-flops and a pair of cut-off jeans. Have a little,
I'm gonna
class. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna double down on you on that. Quite frankly, men should never, and The Rock means ever, wear flip-flops unless you're on the beach. Even then, I don't wear flip-flops. Flip-flop sandals, very effeminate. You should throw those away. There's no reason. Put some sand on your feet, wash it off in the shower, and get home. Men should not be wearing flip-flops or sandals. This is out of control. All right, Heather, thank you.
Just say, I gotta say,
Let's get to Heather, because Heather has been waiting there so patiently, and I skipped over her like 19 times, and there's only 4 people here, so that's bad. Heather, all right, initial takes, and then I gotta know your pet peeves.
My initial take, my pet peeve, I could go on forever, but I have no tolerance for big babies, especially in men. I mean, I've just noticed a lack of ability to care for themselves, to cook for themselves, to emotionally regulate themselves. A lot of needs to just be like pulled in and make everything okay, which is not of interest to me or most women. So finding the need, just let's all be all grown up. Like, let's know basic needs of caretaking for ourselves. If you're sick, know how to handle that. If you need to feed yourself, know how to handle that. If you need to do basic things around your home, know how to handle that. For women as well, I think we can take a little more initiative in our autonomy and in our capacity to also care for our things that we often default to men, like, oh, I can't fix that, or that's not my thing. I think we can all just maybe put on our big girl pants and our big boy pants more often and show up as adults.
I didn't mean to white knight you there, Vincent, but I also didn't want you mansplaining all over the place. So if you could go ahead and continue.
No, it's really interesting to hear that. I just want to say, like, I enjoy wearing flip-flops at home, but I wouldn't wear them on the street. I live in Brooklyn, New York, so I kind of have a wariness about what's on the street. Yeah. I want to just ask a question. Are we focusing this topic on a certain range of age, or are we, broadening this topic across the board? Because I know there might be some generational aspects to what, if we say what a gentleman should know, what a gentlewoman, should know, or are we focusing?
There are absolutely no restrictions on this, because a gentleman and a gentlewoman, they are going to be. I mean, this is stuff that you should know from 13 years on old up. So
agreed. So then I have a question. How do you all feel about? Maza, you said something about social media. I think we should spend some time just talking about the impact of social media on relationships. So I guess another pet peeve, just to say, is when you see people together, or you're with people and people just have their smartphone out and they just constantly look at it, stare at it, and don't have the confidence or care to put it away.
100% agree.
And listen, and is there anything more depressing, and I'll just say this, than walking by and seeing, a couple or a family or a group of people, everybody's got a blue screen glowing their face, and no one is their heads are not even up looking around. They're just waiting for food to come, and then they're eating their food. And that's not something I grew up with. And my goodness, I really think have we lost the art of communication?
Just to respectfully counter you, a lot of times I'll be on a date and I'll have to be on my phone. I'll be on my fourth leg of my parlay. I'll be editing my mixtape. And I think those are important things that every millennial should have. Okay, that's a joke. Nobody got it. All right.
Obviously, I got it right away.
But all respect to you guys because you thought it might have a mixtape. You might have to drop a mixtape just because they were so believing that right there. They're like, oh, you got a mixtape? Let me save that for later.
I wasn't believing that. I was going to actually say, a young man, because you're younger than I am. I was like, we need to talk about the fact that you're doing work if you're on a date with someone because that person is not getting the attention she needs or he needs.
Yeah,
I think
well,
as long
I
as
would
you
say,
say I have something I need to, like if you explain it, if I'm with someone and they explain to me, I'm
It's an
going to have my
emergency.
phone out because I need to have attention to this or attention to that. That's okay with me. There's a reason there
Yeah.
versus just scrolling or being inattentive.
yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree
You
with
want
you,
the other
Vincent.
person to be present.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
mean,
Coach.
honestly, no, honestly, I that's the way it should be. First of all, I should say, hey, man, if you want to go on dates, that's fine. If you want to get in relationships, don't do it. But if you're on a date, you should keep your phone, and I would say up, actually, too, unless you're, and I would shut your notifications off so the other person can't see what you're doing. But put your phone up, have it in there, or keep it in your pocket, and enjoy that time with somebody. And especially, regardless if it's a date, it's a business meeting, if it's just you and your friends, like even if you're just chilling with your friends, obviously sometimes you can have your phone out and be doing stuff, but it's like be present to where you are. Otherwise, why are you even there? So that's something that's really important too. And I think there's a lot of things that this modern generation. One of the things I didn't even have written down was, and I think it's also very important, is accepting feedback. I was managing a retail store 6 or 7 years ago, and I had a assistant manager, and he was a millennial, great kid, super sweet guy, wouldn't hurt a fly. I've always been a good boss. I'm always positive. I'm always on time with the ice black coffee, and I'm ready to like rock stuff. But I'm never yelling at anybody either, unless I mean if there's a hard conversation that needs to be had. Obviously, you need to have those. But when morale's up, sales are up. So it's important to do that. So I always treat people with respect. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna rearrange some of the stuff out here. I have some of the boxes in the back. If you could reorganize them, then we can get ahead of things for the weekend. And his face turned bright red. And I didn't say anything mean to him at all. And he was like overcome with anxiety. And so just being able to accept criticism, because a lot of the times when someone's criticizing you, they're actually trying to kind of take you under the wing and help you out, because the fact that someone's doing that shows that, hey, you don't even necessarily have to do that. All right, but I want to get some feedback on some of my other pieces here. These are a few of the things that I think every gentleman should be able to do. One, you should have a timepiece. You should obviously, and I don't think it should be a smartwatch either. I think every gentleman should have a timepiece, something fancy and nice like that. You should have at least 3 suits, and you can get a white shirt, a blue shirt, a couple striped shirts, a few ties, and you can have yourself a suit. We've already talked about the halo effect psychologically, and you want that for business. You want that for dates. You can dress it down with dark jeans and sport coats. Perfect. You're on a date. Should have a signature scent. You don't have to go out there and spend thousands of dollars. I mean, myself, I'm a guy that loves fragrances, but sometimes I'll buy the $8 knockoff and not pay $400, right? And there's my personal favorite scent is Chrome. It's very inexpensive, but it smells awesome. I've had men and women tell me I smell delicious. Unfortunately, those people are in my family. So that was weird. But those are things that you need to do. A couple other things. You need to know how to change your oil, how to fix your tire. The cool thing is we live in a democratizing time where we have the sum of all human imagination and knowledge at our fingertips. So I didn't know how to tie a tie back in the day. I went on YouTube, learned how to tie a tie. There's a few different things. That's another thing. Tie a tie. You should be able to start a fire as a man, even if you just have those implements with you. Have something with you. You should be able to be able to start a fire. You should be able to tell a joke as a man. All humor is misdirection for the most part. Right? There's some suffering mixed in there and some unexpectedness, but it's really just misdirection. So there's even YouTube videos how to tell a joke. You should be in the gym. You don't have to be a gym rat, but you should be taking care of yourself. You should be healthy. You should know CPR, basic CPR, life-saving stuff. You should know how to throw a spiral with the football. You should know how to hit a baseball, and you should know how to play basketball, right? And then the only other couple things here, 3 last ones that I think are very important. Should be able to give a speech, and there are people that talk about that. Obviously, you start with the opening, start with the hook, give your 3 main points there, and then end it, tie it all back together. And then you should be able to defend yourself and the people that you are with or die trying. So there's many ways that you can find things online. One of my favorite personal things, and you can look up all sorts of martial arts and stuff, but there's a channel, a show on the History Channel called Human Weapon, where these two American guys, one short dude, one fat dude, and they go across the entire world and they learn different martial arts for like 2 weeks. And at the end of the show, one of those guys has to fight a master in it. And it's teaching you and breaking you down all the basic techniques. So you watch that show a few times while you're just sitting on the couch eating potato chips, you're going to learn something. And the last thing is, all gentlemen and all people for that matter should know how to make a logical argument. Nowadays, we just talk and say certain things, but we don't know how to make a logical argument. And so many people's feels are wrapped in it. So those are some general things. What do you guys think about those things? Would you subtract? Would you add anything to that?
I would. Go ahead.
I really like all of those. I think this is great. I think they're pretty externally oriented, though. I think maybe adding a little bit of like internal mastery would be helpful. Like we've mentioned anxiety and things like that. I think it'll be helpful for men and women to really master their own inner well-being as well. How do you handle anxiety? How do you handle insecurity? How do you handle fear? But in terms of like being showing up in the world, I like your list a lot.
I'm going to add to that. Go ahead, Will.
Go ahead, Heather. I was just going to say, and then Rona, I guess the same question to you too. And then if we could get Maz's take, any recommendations on kind of getting control of because that's something that it's a big thing and people don't necessarily know how to go about tackling that. Kind of get
I'm a teacher and practitioner of mindfulness and meditation for decades and yoga. So I think mindfulness is the key to everyone's life. Honestly, if you can meditate and learn how to sit with yourself and learn how to sit with your thoughts and your feelings, then life is going to be a lot easier. Not easier, but a lot more possible to be part of.
Yeah, totally agree. Go ahead, Rhoda. Sorry for interrupting.
No, not at all. So I'm going to add to what Dr. Heather was saying. Two skills that I think men really need to work on are emotional intelligence and critical thinking skills, because they, and I think this is a universal thing when they are not aware, to your point, Heather. We tend to think, editorially speaking, that everyone thinks like us. And if we don't listen, to your point, Vincent, active listening is the hardest thing that anyone can do. And when we realize that not everyone thinks like us, and perhaps someone else has a different opinion, and if we would stay open, I work with purposeful and attuned play, and it's being in that beginner mindset, that childlike mindset where this is going to be an adventure as opposed to I'm going to judge you. When you're in an adult mind, we hate to be judged, and we judge all the time. So if you can go in, you're with someone that perhaps you might like to spend more time with, be open, get to know them and enjoy the differences. Not are they just exactly, they're not the greatest athlete in the world. You know what? They can't match their tie and their shirt. So I can't, those things can be taught. And it's, what's their heart? Are they paying attention to what I am saying? And can they regulate their emotions? Do they ask questions? That's another thing. Men who keep talking about themselves and never ask one single question about me. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Maza, you're up.
Right. So I would like to add that we should talk about social intelligence too. Like, for example, from women's perspective, women are like highly attuned to social fineness. They notice social intelligence quickly because it's tied to safety and compatibility as well. So women, they notice how you treat your friends, how you act around strangers, whether you hog conversations, whether you can read the room. So men with strong social intelligence, they feel like charming, confident, they are emotionally aware, they are adaptable, and that's how if you have like social intelligence, that's how women can be attracted towards you too.
Yeah, Mazda, I'm so glad that you said that. And this is not, and that just doesn't apply to women. It applies to everything. We've done a couple episodes in the back about how to build rapport with people, whether you're on a business meeting, a negotiation, an interview, a first date. These are all, I mean, like that's really what this, I mean, and especially for today's generation, like I'm talking specifically to Coach Rona and my
Yeah.
Gen Z
Gen
demographic
Z,
here.
right?
We grew up. Me and Rona were twins, and we had a PlayStation 5 and a flat screen in the womb. So we
He used to
grew up.
get
I had
so
7
mad when I
tablets.
would beat him. Yeah.
I had iPhone 9. So we grew up on these tablets. So unfortunately, this generation doesn't have any soft skills, and it takes that awareness to develop those skills. And I think that's so important because you're right. I mean, just being on a date with a woman and you don't know what's going on, the man should be like, where are the exits? When should I say this? And like, should I say this joke here in front of her mom or her friend? And just having that social tact that people are definitely lacking. And another thing that I think is important too, I want to speak on 2 other things too: confidence and hygiene. Right? I mean, hygiene
Oh,
shouldn't
yeah.
be something that we have to talk about, but I mean, with a lot of men, it's bad. I mean, even women, some women is pretty bad. I mean, I remember the year that all the girls were wearing those, bringing up the flip flops, those Old Navy flip flops, and then we were beautiful hair, nicely done. They'll have a sundress on, and then they'll have these white flip flops from Old Navy with like black marks in them. Absolutely disgusting. So yeah, I mean, basic hygiene, but it's obviously especially with men, right? Like you should be showering every day, have a fragrance with you. Me personally, I mean, hot take, people are going to clip this up on the internet. That's fine. I don't wear deodorant. You don't need deodorant, right? If I get hot and sweaty, I'm going to take a shower, right? I don't need to be clogging up all the toxins that are supposed to be coming out of my body. If you're going to work and you're not digging ditches, then cool. And then you can relax afterwards. But you should be doing those things. And even more importantly, all of that social awareness can come from confidence. And confidence is a choice. Confidence is a choice, right? And there are ways to develop that confidence. We'll kind of talk about that in future episodes, and maybe you guys want to give us some hints. But Vincent, what's your take on everything that's been said thus far?
There's quite a lot that this is making me think of. Just based on what you said right now, there can be cultural differences in the way that people dress and how they may align their hygiene at times. I've been in situations where sometimes you have to have what people define as the difficult conversation with someone, which means you need to pull someone aside and say, look, I need to speak to you about a couple of things. There's been a few comments made about the following. And if it's hygiene related, it's a difficult conversation. A lot of people don't want to even broach the subject, but they're potentially suffering from the ill effects of it. So I think if we come back to the title, being a gentleman, a gentlewoman means sometimes you have to have a kindness to the way that you speak to someone about what you observe might be something that is limiting this other person or influencing in a negative way some of the things that they're doing. Like, what if they just, you mentioned, deodorant, no, this, that, or the other. It may not be that they have deodorant. It might be that it's bacteria that's causing that smell. And so, there's, without getting too medical about these things, if somebody's wearing a suit and the job requires formal wear, but they're wearing white socks with formal shoes, and their pants are not low enough, and you see that depending on the style, you have to take a lot of these things into consideration. I would always try to aim for respectful feedback, not aggressive and not embarrassing. There's a kindness to speaking and listening and saying, are you aware? And there's been cases, and I've had this conversation with others when I was asked to have difficult conversations because nobody wanted to. And once the awkwardness was past, the person on the receiving end was grateful that somebody pointed something out. They were horrified that nobody had spoken later. And it was like, oh, I thought it was because I said something wrong or this or that. That's just, one of the things. In all of what I've heard, how we treat each other, and what kind of levels of respect do we offer to each other, just in a general sense? Do we greet with a smile, or do we keep our heads down? Depending on where you come from, here in New York City, there's a grittiness. There's sometimes a gruffness I've heard from people who've visited the city, and they talk about that, and then they'll say, "All right, I can give you an example." I had a friend who was from the Midwest, kind of complained about, you New Yorkers never say hello to you, this or that. I brought him to a restaurant where he was waited on hand and foot by an older woman who was like the mama of the restaurant, hand and foot. And then I commented at the end, "Did you notice, by the way, that you were being treated, you were being spoken to?" And yeah, I guess so. So there's this stereotype aspect that can sometimes influence where you come from, what your heritage is, what your cultural norms are. And this is all part of how I think we either discover, find out. If I'm going to someone's house and it's a different ethnicity than mine, different culture, different languages are spoken, how does one act? What you can ask. You can just say, "Hey, before I go, is there anything, you know me, or is there anything I should keep in mind? Do you talk about these things? What are some good topics to speak about?" I may be saying this more because I'm coaching, and I'm asking people and listening to people present challenges that they have. But if we pull back from all this dressing for others, right? You're dressing for yourself, but you're dressing for others. They see how you look. They see how you speak. How often do you use, nobody has mentioned this. How many times does a person use what I would consider to be profanity in their general way of speaking? If it's all the time, I don't think that's appropriate. I think it's rude, actually. And then I think it's a sign of, don't you have any other vocabulary to express your emotions? Why are you devolving to using that kind of language? I wouldn't do that in front of children. Or why are you doing that to anybody else? And a lot of times people don't want to say anything about that, I think, because there's fear of rocking the boat. I believe pulling somebody aside and having, a kind, trusting conversation, that requires courage. And I think a man or a woman, if you want to call them a gentleman, a gentlewoman, they should be capable of making a stand for what is right. And
Yeah, and you know what? That shows the same attributes you were discussing earlier, like having courage. A lot of times it could be somebody new, it could be somebody at work. I mean, that should be part of the bro code, right? If I got something in my teeth, or if I got a stain on my shirt, you pull me to the side and say, and that's actually a sign of true leader. It's not only courage, but it's true leadership, because you're the one taking the effort. Because most people were just bystanders. Someone else will take care of this. Someone else will help that poor woman that's getting something terrible happen. Well, no, someone else will do it. So yeah, you're right. And then we'll go to once you're done, Vince. We'll go to Rona.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something. I just want to throw this out there, because this, to me, today is a sign of today's world. So I don't know how you feel, but if I'm in a crowd of people, or if I'm watching a recording of some activity that went on where something not so good was going on, how do you all feel when you don't see anybody stepping in to stop an argument or stepping in to separate people? What do you see? This is what you see.
World Star.
No, that's just the height of coldness to me. I'd rather film it because I'm afraid to get involved or to pull people apart or say that's enough. We do see people doing that. Is this the decline of the Good Samaritan? I don't know, but the fact that people would rather look and record and, my goodness, in some cases laugh, and it's like it's sad to see that, because I think that's a decline in it's sort of like the mores of the community and the society that we have. If we allow that kind of thing to go on, what's to prevent it from happening again or getting worse? So I don't care who you are, but as a man, I think men have an obligation to step in. And if you see something wrong going on, whether it's, destruction of property, or if you see somebody, abusing somebody, slapping somebody around, like, you just watch and just wait for someone else to step in, hope it goes away. To me, there used to be more of that acceptable behavior. And I think we should have more courtesy to ensure that good manners are part of the status quo. If they're not,
I'm glad you touched on that because part of the thing about being a gentleman is also being masculine and not the mansplaining, like abusing people, but being masculine is like we have to be the arbiters of those very incidents that you're talking about right there because no one else is gonna do that. Police don't police solve 2% of major crimes according to a 50-year study of police's own data, right? And they steal more than the thieves, right? They domestically abuse more than the domestic abusers, right? So as a man, if you want the society to be good just selfishly for yourself and your offspring, you have to take a stand when those things happen because I mean otherwise there's nobody else that's going to do it. The police are not going to do it, right? So that's just a side rant there. Heather, what do you think? What are some things that are either red flags with men or things that maybe are a little different with women that maybe women should have that are kind of a little bit different than what a man should have? And then Maza, if you want to go.
Oh, I think one thing you brought up here, which I applaud you for, is the idea of masculinity, which I think people tiptoe around because there's been so much talk with masculinity. But masculinity really is a positive trait. And the way you guys were talking about it being respectful and kind and showing a protective nature and stabilizing the environment around you really is, to me, what masculinity is about. So I appreciate the conversation being done from that perspective and not being scared of it. And in the same way, so I'm a starch feminist, but I think that women, we're more femininity. So I try to encourage women to explore, if men have these masculinity, their innate nature, certain ways, testosterone related traits, what are, women's creativity, really honing into our creative aspects, attributes, not being afraid to be emotional, to trust intuition, things like that. So wherever you lie on sort of, your innate characteristics, I think just really being comfortable owning your strengths and contributing that to the world around you.
Totally agree. Roni, did you want to jump in before Maza?
Yes, Maza, if you don't mind, because I have to leave after this
Sure.
because I'm cooking for a crowd and I do a little bit each day, so I have to get it done. Per your point, Vincent, I was taking notes while everyone was speaking. How you present yourself is your brand. You will get a
Oh my gosh,
reputation.
Rona, I am so in love with you. Literally, that's the first thing on my, that is the first thing on my Google document right here. And I'm just going to say this, I'm going to shut up and let Rona talk and go. But yeah,
Great
that's
minds
why
think
we're,
alike.
that's intertwined, Godsmack lovers think alike is a little
Yes.
more correct. But
Yes.
seriously, right? This is why because you can spend $200 a pair of Jordans, or you could spend $200 and get yourself a suit. And we've already talked about the social experiments that they've done, right? Even me myself, I go to the Walgreens near my house. I was wearing a hoodie. These people started following me around. Now, granted, I put a thing of cream cheese in my pants, but the next day I wore a suit. They're like, "Hey, how's it going, Bucko? Well, can I serve you, sir?" So yeah, Coach Rona, I'm tripling down on that statement. Please continue. Oh, you're muted.
I do, and I
There
don't know
you go.
why that happened. Part of it is that scene from Pretty Woman, where big mistake where she goes in, and yes, on the one hand, don't judge a book by your cover, but don't. What's the word? Some people revel in the fact, it's like, I'm not the man, and that's how the whole tech world got. I'm just going to wear a hoodie to work and, kicks and all that kind of stuff. And, it's not the classiest look. It may be a sign that you're a computer nerd or whatever. Sorry, Alex. But at the same time, if you want to, show that you know what you're doing, you're to be respected, et cetera, show up like that. Show up or shut up, sort of thing. Because people will be in their adult mind and they will judge you. So,
Yeah.
it's a thing. Every time I get up and do a keynote, do a workshop, facilitate anything, I am in a dress and heels. And I command respect. If I went up there, I mean, I'm going to be doing a a talk with an organization called Indiecade, which is a bunch of creators here in Los Angeles. And I met, they're all going to be in hoodies and sneakers. While I probably won't be that dressed up, I will wear a nice pair of slacks. I will be slightly elevated because I'm being seen as an expert in my field. So that's my brand. People will, and they also know that, we're on a fairly serious, you guys, for those of you who know me, I'm pretty wacky. That's also my brand.
Yeah,
and they
and that's
also
what
know that, go ahead. Well,
one thing that everyone needs to kind of figure out. Some people, it's going to be a little different for every person what your personal brand is, but always presenting yourself well is something that is classic and timeless. Just we live in a world, I'm sorry, I'm going to get to you, Maza, but we live in a world where all the men out here are ultra feminine, right? They know more about Marvel characters and Tom Brady stats than their own things. First of all, you have to get your own life, right? I believe every human being on this planet has at least one amazing quality about them that they could take and turn into something. It could turn into a business. It could turn into a family. It could turn into a nonprofit, right? It could turn into a cool idea that takes over society. And you need to hone in on what that is. And I mean, literally, just by like, if you're a man and you throw on a suit and you start going to the gym and you start thinking about like how you approach people, how to be charismatic. One of my favorite YouTube channels, I watch every single one of their videos a million times. Charisma on Command. You start there, it's going to tell you how to have some jokes, right? And they're going to give you formats for jokes. You know what? When you're in a meeting, sit up straight. Maybe you're in a debate, you want to lean back a little bit more because that's subconsciously telling your brain you're relaxed, right? So there's all these little tips and tricks that you can have, but just wearing a suit, not using emojis, right? And getting a handle on your own life, right? That's going to substantiate you greatly from 90% of men. Just doing those things already. You can just put on a suit. And like Rona said, your image is your brand. And that's the one thing that you can control about you, right? So I would say look sharp whenever you can. Maza, what do you think about all that? And more importantly, should men use emojis? I say no.
It depends. It's very subjective,
All right, but what do you think about what I had to say, even though you're wrong about emojis?
You're going against, you're making me laugh.
Kissy face emoji is very sweet.
It's funny, Will, how you're injecting a lot of your personality, and I kind of feel like in this environment, it's acceptable as a friendly aspect here, but I also think what we've been talking about is, taking a breath, taking a sip of tea, so to speak, and letting somebody else speak, think, and give that healthy pause if they need to process something before they speak. I want to hear some more from Maza too, but I want to ask you all one question. Maybe Rona, before you leave, I want to ask one question to the group. But go ahead, Maza. What else did you have on your mind?
I would like to add that as people, they put the full stop on learning. There should be a lifelong learning because learning strengthens your neuroplasticity, and there's a growth mindset attached with that, which improves your resilience and knowledge, which builds up the competence and confidence in that person as well. So there should be lifelong learning in a person. That's a very good potential for that person. And also we also talk about etiquettes, but we should also have modern etiquette in a person, like manners which activate a positive social reaction in a person, and punctuality that increases their impression of reliability of that person, and consistent politeness with other people. As we already mentioned about like having your phone over here when you are sitting with other people, we should not do that. A gentleman or a gentlewoman should not do that. So these modern etiquettes, we should keep an eye on that as well, and lifelong learning.
Yeah, actually, Stanford just did a study relating to emojis, and it showed that it declined neuroplasticity and the firing of synapses 1,000-fold. Coach Vincent, go ahead. What's your question you want to postulate to the group there?
Well, just quickly on what you said, and I appreciate, Maza, what you said about the neuroplasticity of all of these things, right? The beauty of to me, the beauty of life's journey is that we can continuously learn. Fantastic, wonderful. And I think if in general there is an openness to listen and say, well, how would you do this? How did you do this? Okay, how can I practice this? So that's another aspect of, how can folks take this kind of advice or take this kind of feedback and build off of it, um, and test it out, right? So it's not like, oh, you're hopeless, you'll never get it. Okay, stop. Why don't is there a way that one can role play this without turning it into a session or something, whether it's friends or if it's professional? I think you could probably invite certain exercises that way. But the question that I've been thinking about a lot is, what is to be done going forward for young people who are growing up with technology from day one? There's a lot of studies out now. Probably the most popular person, if you've heard Jonathan Haidt talk about The Anxious Generation, his book, and just sort of the statistics that are pointing out not only the horrors, but if you're of a certain age, you didn't grow up with any kind of smart device. You went out and played. You learned the rules of the game. Sometimes you had to fight. Sometimes you had to bicker. Sometimes you had to debate. You had to learn. You had to learn about risk. If I was playing in the street, whether it was whatever game, I had to, like, someone yell out, car coming, everyone pulls to the side. It's amazing how that aspect, many of these aspects, have been lost. So now I think a big question is, if we're pointing out how a gentleman should be, okay, a gentleman, that signifies an adult. But I also recognize when I was a boy, there were, you're going to laugh. I remember there was a book we had. It was like the Book of Manners. It was a children's book that, this is how you say.
I actually remember that book. My mom used to beat me with that.
Okay, well, that's one way of absorbing a book, but we could talk about other ways. But think about where are young children getting their examples of the manners and the ways and the etiquette that Maza talked about, and the ability to listen or to be a little bit empathetic, depending on who your role models are, where besides family and school, what other kind of institutions, whether it's sports, whether it's things like a scouting program or other kind of extracurriculars, are those the catch-alls to promote these kinds of seeds that get planted to then develop? Now, if not, then to me that's a danger, because can you blame somebody young who never learned some of these things? So they just don't know. You can complain about it. What are some ways that tactically or strategically we can make sure that various ages in life are maybe getting this kind of feedback, but we're also taking care of the future generations who may not see this emphasized as much?
I think you have to put something in the water. Go ahead, Coach Rona. I'm going to let you go because you got to go.
Yeah. There are actual young gentlemen organizations across the country because I know someone who runs one here in LA, where they even take kids who are in the hood and show them what it's like to be a little bit different, that you don't have to be a tough guy sort of thing and dress, with your jeans in the middle of your butt and all that there is a better way that will allow them to better themselves should they want to. And I also think it's the parents have to be aware and not just do what's easy. Here's a well, in our day, Vincent, sit in front of the TV. Now it's here, I don't want to have to bother with you. Take a phone. They're not taught to be present. They do not know how to have a conversation. They are scared to death of any kind of what they consider confrontation, which is why now you get the Gen Z stare. It's just they have no idea what to say or what to do, so they don't do anything. And that's based on fear.
Yeah. Yeah,
and we
I
have
The
to,
best
so
the best
that's my
way to
story.
overcome fear is, well, my personal favorite is having a common enemy. And I suggest Carrot Top, but it's having self confidence and working your way up Maslow's hierarchy, right? I mean, we actually did an entire episode if that's a real thing or not, but just to for an example, we got about 10 minutes left. What do you guys think, Mazo? Do you have an answer to that solution there?
I'm gonna
And
go.
then okay, bye,
Bye, guys.
Rona. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
see you,
Thanks,
Yeah.
Rona.
ladies. Bye.
Bye, Rona.
Bye.
So yeah, Mazo, what's your take on that? Any solutions? And then we'll come back around to each one of our panelists here, and we'll get some final thoughts on just about anything too. But what do you think? Any solutions? How do we do it?
I think all these channels like they should have or they should come up with some sort of content where they teach kids or young people about these all the mannerism and everything. Um, I don't see those kind of things anymore on TV, like where they have like science related things where they are teaching kids mostly about that. Usually I saw those things when I was kid. So there were some channels they have those kind of things like science experiments and this and that on the TV. We saw that, but these days as kids they are more on YouTube and everything. So I think they should come up with something like this where they have a regular like every day 15 minutes on this so that kids they can learn about this. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and I mean, you could even like, share, and subscribe to Dancing Dragons Live right now. Dancing Dragons Live. That's what we do every Monday. We put you guys on to games. So yeah, check us out. Coach Heather, what do you think? Any solutions you have for us here?
I mean, for me, it all comes down to really finding your own authenticity and self-confidence, which we've mentioned a lot before. So, and talking about being your own brand, it rides this line about being, kind of performative or being too dependent on what you think other people think of you, or even conforming in terms of manners. So I think that I bristle against. Like, don't be what you think others need you to be. Don't be what society tells you to be. Be you. And if you has taken a lot of work and growth, ultimately that you who loves themselves and has compassion for themselves and respect for themselves will show those traits to others. And that will show up in a way that you present yourself with respect for yourself. So I think there's a balance here of being really authentic, nonconformist, and then showing up as who you are. So the more we work internally, the more our external behavior and presentation will be successful.
Yeah, I want to quintuple down on what you said. Being a nonconformist, or as I like to say, just a free thinker, someone that has an open but skeptical mind, applying the Socratic method to everything that you have, is actually a really attractive thing to males and females alike because it shows you're not thinking like the herd. Yeah, maybe I have a nice suit and maybe I smell nice, but you know what? I'm my own man. I have my own ideas and I've done my own research. And I have another list that we'll get to maybe on another show, but this was Tom Ford's list. Sense of humor, daily read of a newspaper, right? And then also having the information so you can think for yourself. And so being a conformist is bad. There are certain general rules, right? Like even when you brought up etiquette, Dr. Heather, I think that's like obviously, yeah, you don't want to look like a slob there, but when you're at the crib, I see this commercial everywhere. They're saying luxury napkins for eating at home. I'm like, bro, what demographic is that? That doesn't make no sense. But yeah, being a sheep and being a conformist is like a perfect way to never get a raise, never get a promotion, never get a date. So, and that's what I'm talking about earlier is all people, we have at least one, probably two qualities that we can harness. So to fall into that, right, and use that and kind of develop that. All right, so I want everyone to get their final points off here, but one of the other points is confidence too, right? And I'd say if you're out there looking for a date, I would say, hey, never get married, but that's another story for another day. We can maybe talk about that. But hey, if you want to have some female company, do suggest that you go on dates. And one of the things you have to do is have an abundance mind frame. So I would recommend having a bunch of different dating apps, not just one. I have somebody that I work with, and he gets upset because nobody ever matches him on Tinder. But the thing is, most guys don't know when you're constantly swiping on girls on Tinder, that tells the Tinder algorithm that you're not being selective. And so they downgrade you in that thing. So, and then he's only on that. And so it looks bad. And now he doesn't have an abundance mindset. So you should have all the apps because people unfortunately are just on the apps. But then also, Dr. Heather brought up a great point is confidence, right? You need to be able to approach a woman in real life. It's so rare nowadays that like you need to be able to do that. And it does take some confidence. It's going to take some practice as well too. And keep in mind, you're getting all nervous, but then realize, oh, I'm getting all nervous because I want to go talk to a girl. But meanwhile, remember that thing is just left over in your body from like when saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths was chasing you. It's not that serious. Like this girl is not a woolly mammoth, right? Except for my ex. But that's another episode. So I wanted to talk. Let's start with you, Coach Vincent. What you have any recommendations on approaching females? And then if I could, and then any final thoughts, and then we can go to Dr. Heather and Maza. Any final thoughts you guys have? And then maybe when a man has approached you, what has worked or what have been some better approaches, or maybe from a female's perspective, like sometimes girls would be like, oh, he didn't even know. Like sometimes, I mean, I think the guy should take the initiative. Obviously everyone's different. There's a generalization, but maybe what are some things a girl can do to kind of to get a guy that she likes? But yeah, let's start with you, Vincent. Any final thoughts and just generalities approaching females and dealing with females as a man, as a gentleman?
Okay, so a couple of things I'd like to say. One, I think the idea of mentorship is a really healthy one for women and men. And that means a proactive way of having more people with more experience be available to others and to let others know that they can ask instead of waiting to be tapped. I think you could use a mentor. I think explaining to people that if you're sincere and you do a little homework and say, I'd like to talk to you about something, I'm looking for a mentor. So I think mentorship is really important because sometimes you need to be told, or you need to, somebody can explain to you a couple of things. That's all you need. You just didn't know certain things existed. You just didn't know this was a way to do it. You could practice that. I think if you feel fairly confident, there are other people who are not confident. And so sometimes through friendship, obviously through coaching, there are ways that people can help others gain confidence. I also wanted to say that I think it's really important to know that if you have passions, and everybody has more than one, to me, it's a divine, you cannot argue with something like that. But there are so many ways that saboteurs in the mind and in the family and in the society say, what are you, crazy? You can't do that. Or how dare you do this? Or you're not the right X, Y, and Z to be able to do these things, right? So there will come times, and this is why sometimes mentorship or somebody older who's willing to explain and tell their stories as an example, that there have been hardships. Here's what happened. What did you do? Right? Because it's the end of that story that's really important to give to somebody. Understanding that it will take sacrifice to illuminate these passions that you have, understanding that you need to know, and someone has to teach you perhaps what the word boundary means. You have to know what that means. And it's very difficult sometimes from a family perspective, the assumed gender roles that just exist, which may or may not make sense to you. I think there are ways we can help each other. And sometimes coaches can do that, mentors, leaders in a community, leaders in family who take that initiative, who take somebody by the arm and say, let me talk to you. That wasn't your fault. Step in and don't let somebody suffer. Ultimately, maybe those conversations, maybe that advice, maybe a little role play, which is humorous in a safe space, can actually open up the eyes and start to at least present options. I'll stop
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, totally agree. And just to your point, if people want to, I think mentorship is extremely important. I was very fortunate to have a really awesome mentor. Shout outs to Todd. And one of the things he helped introduce me to is, so I got 3 favorite books, and it's one of the other things. A gentleman needs to be well read, right? I don't know if I covered that, but if not, you got to be well read. That's like one of the biggest things. I prefer nonfiction, but The three best books every gentleman needs to read: Think and Grow Rich. It'll tell you how to get a mentor. It'll tell you how to develop. It's literally a blueprint to everyone successful. If anybody doesn't know, Think and Grow Rich was written by Napoleon Hill about 100 years ago, and he was tasked to going around to the most successful people in the world and finding out their habits and blueprints. And so it's literally a blueprint. Almost every successful person I know has read Think and Grow Rich. The other one is the 4-Hour Work Week, and it also talks about how to get a mentor in your fields and do what you want to do. It's like the updated Think and Grow Rich. And then my third favorite book of all time is Turtles in Time. I mean, they were going back to samurai Japan and kicking butt. That wouldn't necessarily make the gentleman's list, but I mean, Ninja Turtles in Time was just awesome. They were kicking each other's butt. And then just to your point too, before we get to Heather and Maz's final points here, a lot of this is just knowing things and having the constant confidence to execute it. So I'll give one final example of just how this will play out. So I forget the gentleman's name, but he was a journalist, and he worked for, I believe, the New York Times and the Rolling Stone. And self-admittedly, he went through college. He only maybe had a girlfriend, and then after college, he didn't get laid at all, by his own words, right? And then he said he started doing documentaries, and he was backstage with these famous rock bands, and the only kiss he ever got was by one of the famous rock guys, and got a kiss on the cheek, right? And then so after he was doing that work, he was tasked to kind of do like a hit piece on these pickup artists. And so he went to these conventions and he would hang out with these pickup artists. And this guy, he was short, he was bald, and he was fat. And he went there to do a hit piece on these pickup artists and turned into the greatest pickup artist of all time. He literally bagged Britney Spears on video, right? So it doesn't make a difference if you're bald, if you're fat, if you're, and even if you think it's wishy-washy. And this is my little plug here for Dancing Dragons Live. If your tummy starts hurting, you break your leg, you're going to go see a doctor. If you get in trouble like I did for stealing Turtles in Time, the novel, when it came out, you're going to have to go see a lawyer. You only have one life, although there is some really compelling information about reincarnation that's been done in the University of Virginia for a very long time. But that aside, you still only get one here in this physical incarnation that we know of. So make the best of it. You only have one life. Imagine having a doctor for your whole life, a lawyer for your whole life. That's what dancingdragons.cc is. We have a wide variety of coaches on a number of topics. Maybe you want to get that guy or girl. Maybe you already got the guy or girl and you want to move up from middle management. Maybe you want to start your own business. Maybe you're on a health and wellness journey. Maybe you want to see how the stars affect your life. We have all that and more. So check us out at dancingdragons.cc, dancingdragons.cc, dancingdragons.cc. Maza, what is the pickup line that worked on you? Any final thoughts, and what approaches have worked on you in the past, or any suggestion for any females out there?
Okay, I would like to end up like the final call is like all these things we talk today, these are not just like random habits. They are rooted in psychology and they work because they are aligned with how humans think, feel, and behave and connect with others. So you don't need to master all of these things we talk about today just now today. Just we need to pick up one and master it and then add another one. That's about it, and you'll become one really good gentleman or gentlewoman, but on a neurological level with all these psychological rooted habits. If you start doing or start picking up on those, one thing which works on me is like if someone is like being respectful, listening to you, and fully connected to you. Yeah.
Well, it looks like it worked. It looks like you got a nice big ring on your finger. So congratulations to that
Thank you.
to whoever that respectful man was. See, there's proof positive that it actually worked. How about you, Dr. Heather? Any final thoughts and ideas? Maybe a best approach that you've had, or ideas for a female? Maybe the guy's not big. Obviously, a female or any guy, girl, you want somebody with confidence in your mate, just in general as human beings. But maybe something to, as a girl, be like, let a guy know that you like him, right? I always like when a girl goes like this. That's a great sign, but that's never happened to me. So any ideas there, Dr. Heather? What can we do?
Well, first of all, you're right, confidence. And confidence can show up as like telling a joke, just simply going up to you, the things you've mentioned. I mean, anyone who's, and again, I want to get back to like, focus on your internal self and who you are, and that's going to transfer to the external world. And women just like someone who's authentically listening to them, like Mazda said. It'd be fun. Tell a joke. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't take them too seriously. That always works for me. Like nothing is too serious, so make it light and non-stressful, and that also shows a lot of confidence. And I like emojis.
Darn it. This was a 10 out of 10 episode before that. And you know what? This actually expands upon my theory, because whether it's my female cousins or coworkers or any girl that I meet that's new, I always ask them, right? I always say, hey, because typically, and still to this day, men are the openers. Females are the marketers. They market themselves looking nice with a nice flowery dress on Instagram, or maybe they're sitting in the park reading a book with an umbrella and a picnic basket. They're the marketers, and men, we're the salesmen. We got to get in there and say, hey, look, I can get you into this right now for a thing. So that having been said, I always ask females, I'm like, all right, what are the best, worst, and craziest pickup lines you got? And they never answer. So stay tuned next week when Dr. Heather and Maza and Vince tells us all the best pickup lines and it's not really, I'm half joking, but you should never be using pickup lines. You should be authentic. We can kind of discuss that at a future episode. But yeah, I definitely want to thank everyone for joining, and thanks to Rona. Big shout outs to Coach Eli. And you know, his Dallas Cowboys just defeated the heck out of those Eagles. Go Cowboys, go. Hopefully he watches this episode and as he burns in hell. Guys, thanks for joining Dancing Dragons Live. We are going to be right back at you 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time ish next Monday, and be excellent to each other. See you later, folks.
Bye all. Good to see you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah. We might just have to hang out for a sec until they kill the live, so don't say anything crazy. But anyways, I ended up meeting Bigfoot one day, and okay, are we done? Oh, it still says we're live, but okay, we're still here. All right, so I'll go with my Bigfoot story.
Ooh,
so
I have a Sasquatch like fascination.
Oh, that's sass to you. I didn't know, but I just came back from Nam, and I was gunny on a helicopter. Okay, we need to. Hey, Alex, are you there, bro? Can you kill the live? Okay, let's give some free advice. All right, let's see what did I not get to. All right, let's see. Change your underwear every 6 months, right? Crisp cotton white shirts. You need black shoes. Let's see. Well cut dark suit. Perfect teeth. If you don't have them, save up and get them fixed. That's Tom Ford's list right there. Sense of humor, be well read, a sport that you're good at. That's what I said. He says tweezers. I'm surprised, quite frankly, tweezers made it into the top 15. But I get it. You know what's weird is because I'm an older man now. I guess I'm at the point in life where like you get hair going out.
What does tweezers mean?
The nose.
You mean grooming the.
Yeah,
oh, okay. That's what that means. Okay. Okay.
Oh, see, I would totally miss that because my ex used to grab those when we were about to make love. So I thought that was a whole different reason. Okay, I could do that too. Okay. Okay, Tom Ford's interesting. All right.
It sounds like a top 10, top 20 list of, must do's, must never do's, or maybe a series of that. There's a lot of great anecdotal reminders and tips.
We should do a whole
things like that.
We should do a whole episode on things that gentlemen don't do, right? You don't even look at your friend's girlfriend, right? You don't
oh, you're right. You don't talk shit behind your buddy's back. Like
yeah, exactly. Honestly, yeah. All right. So hey, Coach Alex, are you there? Because we're gonna guys, all right. So have you guys seen the new live stream that's like 30 days long, and it's just like a social experiment? That's us now. So let's
it's like we're up in one of the space
no one can leave.
We're all trapped.
There's no way for you as the host to.
I'm not the host. I'm like the host. I'm the MC, but I didn't create the stream. So Alex created the stream. It's like my mom. He brought us into this world, and he can take us out.
So if we all leave, will it end, or it will still?
Yeah, why don't you guys just go anyways, and I will make weird faces. You guys are good. And yeah,
Okay.
I think if we all leave, it'll just end anyways. But yeah, thank you guys
Okay.
for your help,
Thanks,
and
Will.
Great
I'll,
to talk
see
to
you
you.
guys. I'll see you guys on the meeting Wednesday or Sunday, whenever. Have a great night.
Very good. Good night,
Great
Heather.
to meet
Good
you
night,
both.
Will.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, it's just me now. All right, I'm gonna tell you some other things about how to be a man. You want to be a man? I'm gonna tell you how to be a man. This is a real deal right here. If you're to be a man or a free thinking individual, you cannot adhere to an ideology that you haven't fully researched for several years. I don't want anybody out here saying, "Hey, I'm a Democrat. Hey, I'm a Republican." No, you're not. You don't. I bet you 99% of these people can't tell me what their platform even stands for. I don't want to get into some. Oh, I'm a Scientologist, bro. You know you're not. You're not a Scientologist. But let me know in the comments, guys. What do you think was the best that we had, the best advice, and what do you think are some of the things we missed? Because we did have a lot of panelists here, and I'm sure we did miss a ton of things too. So what did we miss? Guys, like, share, and subscribe, and I'm leaving. So with this video may go on, but it will go on without me. Peace, guys.